Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Write or Die Show. I'm your host, Randi-lee. On the show, we interview other writers and we talk about mental health from their personal journeys. If you have not already hit that like and subscribe button, go ahead, do that now so that you never miss an episode. So today with us, we have Jeff Rasley. Hello, how are you?
Hello, Randy. I'm well. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Where are you joining us from?
Indianapolis.
Oh, very nice. And how's the weather?
Really crappy and depressing.
I'm not the only one. Excellent. So tell us, who is Jeff?
Well, I was a lawyer for 30 years
Oh, wow.
and retired from law about 10 years ago. I was very lucky to be able to retire at a relatively young and healthy age. And since then, I've taught a class on philanthropy at two different universities. I've written uh, a bunch of books. It's totaled 14 now.
Wow.
Um, and I'm the president of two different philanthropic foundations and the U.S. Representative for a trekking and mountaineering company based in Kathmandu, Nepal.
Very cool. Now that's what you do, but who are you?
Well, I'm a very thoughtful person.
Okay. Now we're getting somewhere. Do you have any pets?
I have a kitty cat, Poppy.
And you almost forgot to introduce them? I don't
Well,
know. This might be over already.
I, yeah, we're really going downhill here. Well,
Yep.
I closed the door so Poppy couldn't join us because this office chair I'm sitting in, she likes to jump up and sit on the back right over my shoulder. And
Oh, I love it. I know. Same with mine. That's why my door is closed. And guys, guess what? I think I've clicked it shut. For the past few weeks, the door has not been working. The cats have been joining. But I think it's clicked shut today.
well,
So
I love your decor. I mean, that's
thank
really cool looking.
you. Thank you. Purple is my favorite color. So yeah. I guess it's time to get to the meat potatoes of the episode. What kind of mental health are we going to be talking about today?
Well, what we corresponded about was depression.
Yes. So start your story wherever makes the most sense for you.
Well, for myself, I first experienced depression as a teenager. And it was kind of written off by myself and my parents and my brother, who were really the only people, other than a few maybe close friends, who recognized it as just teenage blues.
Ah,
Something that was just typical of that stage of life.
yep.
And I think there is an element of truth in that. But there's a deeper issue there. And so uh, I didn't have any therapy or, psychological counseling. Um, Although my parents were very loving parents. And I had a psychology teacher in high school, who was also my high school counselor, my guidance counselor.
Oh, okay.
And so he and I had some long talks, and I think that was helpful. Um, but I was a very active teenager. I played sports all year round. I was very active socially, and I think just being so engaged, almost not that it actually. Um, Alleviated or cured, I would say it cured depression. I was just, too busy to really sort of, just give into it. I mean, there were a few days where I just, didn't get out of bed and kind of lay there and moaned and felt sorry for myself. But, I think another big part of it was just moving out of my small town, where in a lot of ways it was a wonderful community in a lot of ways, but in other ways it was very, very closed, kind of a monolithic culture. And to get out and experience a wider world really helped, because I went to college for a semester, dropped out, and hitchhiked around the country. Then went
Oh,
to
that's so cool.
then went to college for another semester, and in the summer went over to England, studied in England for 6 weeks, and then hitchhiked and traveled all around Europe for the rest of the summer. And
Wow.
went to college for a year, and then the next summer took a motorcycle trip all over the country down through Mexico.
Oh my goodness. A very exciting life.
Yeah. So, I think I was just like I said before, it was almost like I was just too busy, too engaged to let depression really take over. But it's it's the sort of thing that we know from neuroscience now that at least to a certain extent, there's a chemical, a biological, a genetic, I mean, issues related to, or causes related to depression, that are not necessarily controllable. And so I have felt that, that feeling, that kind of that dark, um, overpowering feeling in the back of my mind at times, throughout my life. And as as an adult who, as a lawyer, I encountered a lot of people with various, mental illnesses. And I was also a a ministry counselor. I went through seminary as well, and so I had for a period of time, kind of a dual occupation as a counselor, pastoral counselor, and a lawyer. And so I developed my own non therapeutic, in the sense of medical therapy, but
Hmm.
approach to dealing with depression, which I've recommended to other people and I follow.
Okay. So tell us a little more about that.
Okay, so it has 5 elements. Number one, have positive relationships. Be involved with people that make you feel good, and that you help to make them feel good. Just be around people that it just feels good to be with. Number two, have projects, activities, something going on in your life that you can spend time with almost every day, that is meaningful, that's important to you, that you care about. Number three, regular exercise. Exercise every day, not twice a week, not 3 times a week, 7 days a week.
So hold on, I'm going to pause there. Just because so many people hear the word exercise and they're so turned off, and oh my gosh, I don't want to go to a gym, I don't want to do this. So I'm a personal trainer for a few years now, and there's different kinds of exercise, guys. He's not saying necessarily you have to go hit the gym for, an hour, 2 hours. Honestly, exercise comes in different forms. It comes in going for a brisk walk, it comes in yoga, it comes in jogging, bicycle, or you can be weightlifting. I'm really into aquafit right now. Like, so there's so many different kinds and forms of exercise. So just try some different things. Don't hear the word exercise and go, "Oh my gosh, nope, no gym for me." Try something different. So I wanted to throw that out because that's a very harsh word for some people.
Um, Absolutely great point. I mean, yeah, Yeah, I bicycle, I run, I do machines, I lift weights, I kayak, I rollerblade. So, yeah, I mean, I get bored if I do the same thing day after day. So, yeah, I play pickleball now.
Ooh.
Um, so, I mean, your point, it needs to be fun. If it's just painful work, who's going to do that 7 days a week?
Exactly. You don't dread doing the exercise. Find something that you look forward to doing. And I like how you added in like rollerblading, kayaking, because a lot of people don't see that as exercise. They see it as like a hobby or a sport. Those are exercise.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, playing games that engage your body where you're moving. As long as
Right.
you're moving, it's exercise.
Exactly.
But
Basketball, baseball, run around with your dog if you have them.
right, yeah, or chase your kitty cat, or
Exactly.
she'll chase you.
Yeah, really.
But
Yep.
the fourth element is meditation, and the fifth is a healthy diet. So,
Yeah.
I mean, in a way, it's just sort of, basic advice on how to live a healthy, positive lifestyle. Um, but it's, it's worked for me and the people I've talked to and that I've counseled and mentored over the years. Um, I don't have statistical, medical proof that this is sort of the answer, and I don't think it is the answer because I think
I
a
think it's
lot of people
an
need
answer.
it's an answer. Exactly. I think a lot of people do need professional therapy and do need pharmaceuticals. And I certainly would never say you shouldn't do either of those. But I do think, if you have that positive, healthy lifestyle, you might not need those other kinds of interventions.
Yeah. And they can go hand in hand. You might do one for a bit and then, taper off. So, I've been on and off going to therapy, like clinical therapy for years on and off. And yeah, I don't need to go all the time, but sometimes something spikes up and it's like, hey, I'm going to go now. And the rest of the time, doing what you're saying, getting outside, getting that vitamin D sun, even with our crappy weather, and finding some activities to do. I mean, on days when I don't want to go outside because I got puppies, we're going outside.
Puppies, you're going outside.
Yeah. Yeah. And then my one dog, he will not go number two in the backyard.
Hmm.
He will only do it if you take him for a walk. So every single day we're going for a walk no matter what.
That I have two sons, and the younger son has a dog. The other, like my wife and I, is cat lover and has cats. But the thing I do kind of envy on one part of being a dog owner is that walk. I mean,
Yeah.
he lives out in LA, so when we visit, I love to take his dog out for a walk.
You
I
can
mean,
take your cat out for a walk. I've seen people do it.
I the last cat we had, I did.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
he allowed me to put a leash on him, and um, we live in a kind of, although we're inside the city of Indianapolis, behind our house is a river, and there's a little
Oh.
fort woods so we have to be somewhat careful. The two
Mhm.
previous cats were outdoor cats, and
Okay.
sometimes would be gone long enough that we'd start to worry. And one, we found the little guy on the other side of the river one time, and another time down a sewer.
Oh
He was very
no.
adventurous. So our last two
Yeah.
cats have been indoor cats, except the one that did go out on a leash.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. You gotta be careful. You gotta take care of your kitties. Mine are all
Yes.
indoor kitties, so I would worry. But we're on a main road, so I would worry very much about them.
Hmm.
Okay, so you kind of developed this thing. It was working for you, working for some of your clients, which is fantastic. And I mean, this show is all about anecdotal evidence, right? Stories. Um, so
Right.
how from there, from figuring out that, how did things go from there?
Well, very well. Like I said, had a financially successful legal business. I became the head of a small law firm and
Oh, nice.
had a partner with a buyout. And so 55 was able to retire when, I mean, it was financially very, professionally very rewarding.
That's
Um,
awesome.
but something I wanted to mention that I thought you would find interesting and your listeners would. Um, Suicide has been sort of a major theme that I've dealt with, not myself per se, but friends. I've had three close friends who committed suicide, and
I'm
I
sorry.
actually, when I was in high school, talked a classmate uh, out of committing suicide, right?
Oh, wow. So how did that go?
Well, and just uh, mention sort of a little plug. All four of these situations I describe in my last book, which is called 72 Wisdoms. And,
Okay.
and so there's a one chapter that is sort of centered on this story. When I was in high school, one of the things I did when I was feeling sort of, agitated or depressed to deal with it is we lived near a reservoir which had a dam and a canal. And
Okay.
so I would walk down and I would stand on this wall, which was up over the dam at night. And it was really kind of a beautiful place to be in my neighborhood because the moon and the stars would reflect on the
Oh,
reservoir
yes.
and the water rushing over the dam had this kind of lovely, kind of oceanic sound to it.
That's
And
awesome.
so one night, and this was my junior year in high school, so I'm, 16 years old, I think, maybe 17.
Okay.
I go there and I see this figure that on top of that wall,
Okay.
and I could tell it was a woman, female figure, and so I wasn't sure what she was doing because I'd never seen anybody else there at night.
Oh.
So I kind of slowly edged up and got up on the wall near her and asked her how she was doing. And then I realized she was crying. And so we just started talking. And then I recognized who it was. And she was in my class, but we didn't really know each other.
Okay.
Um, we didn't run in the same social circles. Our town, like a lot of small towns back then, was divided by a railroad track, and there was the north side and the south side, and she was a north sider, and I was a south sider, and the twain did not necessarily mix. And but so and she started telling me about this really horrific situation in her family, and
Oh
there was
no.
um, sexual abuse and just an awful situation. And
Hmm.
eventually, she said she had planned to throw herself, and this was in the winter, so the water was very cold. Throw herself above the dam, have the dam wash her body down the river, uh, and that's how she planned to end her life. But so we just kept talking, and
Hmm.
I listened to her and just kind of encouraged her to tell me whatever she felt like telling me. And, after probably 40 minutes, she said she felt better, and she was going to go home. So I walked
Wow.
her with her off over this bridge and tell where I could see her car was because she had driven down here from all the way
Oh.
from the other side of town. Um, and it was really interesting because we'd pass each other in the hallway in high school now and then, and she would always look and smile and nod when we'd pass. We never really had another conversation until I think it was our 20th high school class reunion.
Oh, wow.
And I recognized her and went over and, asked her how she was doing. She
Hmm.
told me she had two children, happily married, and, from everything she said, her life was good, and she hugged me and whispered thank you. And as far as I know, nobody else, knows. I mean, now people know this story, but I've never revealed her identity
No, no,
to
of course not.
anybody else. So,
Oh my gosh. And so as you're telling this story, it's amazing, by the way. Um, but I was thinking back to one of the first things you said, meaningful relationships. And even though you never really connected beforehand, you didn't really chat too much afterwards, it was a very meaningful connection at that time that helped her. And then, like you were saying, you walk down the hall and you just kind of smile and nod. The connection was there. So you never really know what connection is going to be truly meaningful for somebody else. You might think a meaningful relationship has to be, dating or a big time friendship or, knowing the person for years and years, but it can be so simple. That is
yeah,
amazing. And just listening, like you said, just being an ear, a shoulder to cry on, just listening makes a huge difference for people.
yeah. Another interesting, very moving experience I had with suicide in another case, which also another chapter, different chapter in that book, deals with uh, an elderly man, elderly in the sense that he was in his mid 70s,
Okay.
became a friend of mine. And the way he became a friend was I was giving a program, a slideshow, and a talk at
Okay.
for this civic organization, uh, and which is mostly for older adults. And it was about this foundation that I'm the president of that's based in Nepal. And
Okay.
so after the talk, he came up and his name is known. This is Ray. Ray came up to me and said that he really thought this was a really cool project I was involved with, and he wanted to help. So we started meeting actually regularly, having coffee, having wonderful talks. He was really intellectually stimulating guy, really interesting guy. And he was the major donor to a project where we built a water system for this remote village in Nepal called Basa. The
Okay.
foundation is called the Basa Village Foundation because all of our work has centered in the Basa area. So anyway, so Ray became the major donor to fund this project. And um, over time, Ray revealed that he had a partner. They were gay, two gay men, and his partner had become very ill, was
Aw.
in a nursing home, had lost the ability to speak or move, and Ray's partner named Juan had been an eminent physician, medical doctor. And he was now in his mid 80s, so 10 years older than Ray.
Okay.
And Juan wanted to die.
Aw.
And he had clearly communicated this to Ray, and they had lived together for, I think, 10 years or more.
Wow.
So Ray wanted to assist him. Well, in Indiana, assisting suicide is illegal.
Yes.
Which is, I've always thought, well, how are you going to enforce that if it was successful? Put the body.
Right? I know.
Yeah. But anyway, so eventually Ray confided in me that he was planning to take Juan out of the nursing home, kill Juan, and then kill himself. And he said the reason he wanted to kill himself is that he would have no reason to live without Juan, but
Oh,
he had $250,000 in savings, and there was
wow.
a Palestinian school that he had supported over the years. And rather than live out a meaningless life, spend all of his savings, he wanted that money to go to this Palestinian school as a
Okay.
charitable donation. And so he wanted me to be his spokesperson to explain to his family and the world what he had done after he had done it. Well, I was kind of, surprised, taken aback, wasn't sure how to deal with this, but
Mm-hmm.
I was an attender at a Quaker meeting, and the Quakers have this very interesting method of helping someone who has a problem. They have
Okay.
what they call a clearance committee, where a committee led by a pastoral counselor or pastor meets with the person, asks the person questions, but does not give the person any advice, does not give
Okay.
any directions, just helps the person think through it by answering questions. So Ray had told me that he'd always admired the Quakers and he was aware of the system. And I said, okay, well, before you do anything, how would you agree to go through and he said, yeah, he would. Um, I set up the committee meeting, and the Quaker pastor at a meeting I attended called
Mm-hmm.
First Friends Indianapolis was going to chair it. And the day before the meeting was to occur, Ray got Juan out of the nursing home, drove him to early in the morning to the parking lot of a strip center,
Okay.
took a gun, shot Juan through the head, killed him, and then put the gun in his mouth, shot it. And unfortunately, he lingered for a number of hours, and he did it in that place because he knew people would see that there would be traffic through the.
Yeah.
But he was never conscious again, and he died at the hospital.
My gosh.
And I discovered this because it was in the local news. Um, so what I actually realized is because Ray and I were emailing back and forth about this, that when he realized I was worried that I might be in trouble, be considered having, participated or assisted,
Mm.
he set up this email evidence that after my initial saying, well, yeah, if that's what you want, then there was this evidence that actually I tried to talk him out of it.
Ah, so he
So,
never really planned to
no, he was
not.
he was protecting me, but his $250,000 did go to the Palestinian school, and
Well, that's good.
Ray and Juan got what they want. But so the really difficult and interesting issue that situation raises, and my own conclusion is that in some cases, suicide is a fine answer. It's not absolutely necessarily always wrong.
That is quite the story.
Yeah, and there's three others, which we don't have time for.
I'm not usually speechless. Weird.
Yeah.
Wow. And so assisted suicide, euthanasia, um, has been making more headlines as of recently. And there are places that, if you prove XYZ, then the doctors are now allowed to help you with that. So, and there probably is a component of counseling involved. I haven't done the research on it. I'm just little bits that I've picked up from news things that have popped up. So it is quite the topic. And I'm not going to get political here. That's not what we're here for. But it is something that comes up, and definitely I would say talk to somebody about what you're feeling, what you're thinking.
Yeah, I I have very conflicted feelings about Ray's suicide. I
Yeah.
understand that why he wanted to assist Juan, because Juan understandably absolutely wanted to die under his condition.
Hmm.
Somebody who was so physically debilitated and he was in pain every day, and his existence was just existing. That I think most people would want to have their life ended under those circumstances. But Ray killing himself when he was a healthy, fit, intellectually engaged person, that piece of it was, I'm very conflicted over. On the one hand, I understand because he explained it clearly and rationally why he didn't want to live anymore.
Hmm.
And I do think that someone should have the right to end their life if that truly is their decision, if it's truly their decision and it's not, an emotional reaction. It's not a spur of the moment
Sounded
thing.
like his was very emotional.
Well, it was very emotional, but it was also very well thought out. He,
Well,
he,
probably,
he
but it sounds like, and I don't know the situation, that it was very emotionally thought about.
yeah, right, right, exactly. But it's something he had been thinking about for well over a year. Um, but yeah, anyway, I mean, I think really to the extent there's a political, and I'm not going to be actually political about it, but a point that should be understood by people who make laws about this sort of subject is that people should be able to die with dignity. And I think in some cases, assisted suicide allows someone to die with dignity, whereas without assisted suicide, their lingering, painful death will not only be undignified, it will be painful and awful, not only for them, but for everybody who cares about them.
Hmm. Yeah. That's a very tough topic for a different podcast, but that's
Yeah.
a good point. Um, so as we're getting close to wrapping up the episode, I always like to pose a question. And so because we've been talking about suicide pretty much most of the episode, what would you say to somebody who is like, this is my only out, emotionally charged?
Yeah, I guess I would approach it the same way that, when I was 16, uh, and encountered my classmate on that overlook of the dam, I would just ask questions and talk and be there. And
Mm.
as opposed to me, like I have these five elements for living a healthy, positive lifestyle, and you need to listen to me. I think somebody who's actually at the point where they are seriously uh, feeling suicidal, and as you put it, emotionally, that the emotions are driving that. I think they need an alternative cathartic experience
Mm-hmm.
to let it out in a way that they feel safe as an alternative to letting it out by killing themselves.
Yeah.
And not being a professional counselor, although I have training as a pastoral counselor, I wouldn't feel qualified to be do therapy, per
Yeah.
se. But I think anybody who is sensitive and caring can listen compassionately to someone who's in that state, and I think that's the best we can do. And I think
Yeah.
that's immediately what someone in that state needs.
Yes, exactly. All right. So now tell us, and you've already said a little bit, but tell us what you've written and where we find it.
Oh, well, thanks, Randy. Yeah, the last book I wrote, which has a number of chapters that deal with the topics we've been talking about,
Mm-hmm.
is called 72 Wisdoms, and it's actually 72 chapters that deal with 72 different issues that I think are the 72 most important issues that someone should deal with. It goes through all the stages of life to, having a baby, to confronting your own death.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's available through Amazon. It can be ordered through any bookstore, and I have a website where all of my books also have links. And the website is just my full name, the www.jeffrey, Jeffrey, Rasley.com. So, and
Excellent.
it has an email link as well. So any of your listeners that would want to connect personally, happy to do that.
Excellent. And where do people follow you?
Well, I have an Amazon author page, my website, and then I am on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn.
Excellent. And we're going to stick the links down in the description below, to make sure that everyone has those handy so they can give you a follow. Because it sounds like you've had a very interesting life.
Well, I have intended to. I like
Good.
to think one of my models about life is to think of your life as an artistic creation. So
Hmm,
create something beautiful.
I like that. I'm stealing it.
Okay, wait a minute. I have it copyrighted.
Too late. It's stolen.
Darn.
All right. So thank you so much for coming on the show, and sharing with us.
Well, thank you, Randy. It's been delightful. I mean, we've been talking about depression and suicide, but which doesn't sound like a very happy topic, but
Right.
really, you're a wonderful, engaging interviewer, and thank you for
You.
having me.
You're so welcome. As always, thank you so much for the amazing guests that we have on the show. Be sure to check out their links down in the description below. If you want to support the channel, go ahead and check out our merch store. We've got some very cool things on there. That's my favorite. Sorry, I'm busy ending the stigma. But there's some other very cool designs. 10% of the proceeds always goes back to the Canadian Mental Health Association. Be sure to follow us on Facebook at RB Media because we have some great new shows coming up, and you never want to miss any of those episodes. And remember, the only way to end the stigma of mental health is to speak openly and honestly. Bye.